I've heard about Barbadian and Jamaican influences and divide, but I haven't experienced it because I'm Jamaican, but I grew up here in the U.S., so I consider myself Jamaican. And I've heard that Jamaicans think this way and Barbadians think this way, but I don't know. I haven't experienced any of that myself. I just know Sam as an individual and as a person, and his ethnicity or his cultural practice never really had anything to do with how I view him and how he's been able to communicate with me or with any group that I've been involved with.
In the 45th district, we are predominantly a Caribbean American district. I would say that we are about 70% Caribbean American. We are about 5% African American, and when I say Caribbean American, I also mean Haitians, because they're Caribbean as well. We don't make the split between French speaking and English speaking, and the rest of the community is Jewish. I am not in as I don't have the kind of contacts with the Jewish community as I guess I will have once I'm elected to City Council. There's not a huge voter turnout in the Jewish community, and I think the reasons are obvious. If you look at the numbers from the Jewish communities, the numbers are minuscule. The numbers improve a bit if they are comfortable with their performance, and I think the Jewish community wants to ensure that you can make sure that their needs are met. And I have not been in a position to make those guarantees to anyone. But they say very frankly, the incumbent doesn't necessarily do anything for us either, but he doesn't do anything that harms us, so they're very comfortable about that. But that's the ethnic breakdown of the communities. The 45th district is largely Jamaican, followed by Guyanese, followed by Haitians. And when I say Haitians, I mean documented Haitians, because there are well over 1 million Haitians here who are undocumented. And then there are Trinidadians and Barbadians and lesser populations, for the other Caribbean countries. I've made a real effort to reach out and develop relationships with all of the many ethnic groups. So sometimes Barbadians are a little unkind and say, well, we're not supporting you because you don't come to our functions or you show up at our functions late, without understanding that this is not just a Barbadian community. And if I am serious about being elected, I've got to make sure that I develop relationships with other ethnic groups, other national groups as well. And I've worked hard on establishing and developing those relationships. So if you look at my campaign, you will see that they're not just Barbadians. We have volunteers, and I mean really, really great volunteers, or core teams, cross-section of Caribbean people.
How are Caribbean people dealing with the recession? We've seen examples of foreclosure, but how are Caribbean people impacted by this recession?
It's been devastating in the Caribbean community. The two largest Caribbean communities are East Flatbush and Canarsie. Canarsie being a slightly more upper crust kind of community, mainly because of the type of housing that there is in Canarsie. White folk fled once blacks started to move in, leaving some really beautiful homes behind. And a lot of Caribbean people were taken advantage of by real estate agents and by mortgage companies, because you see, in Barbados, as I'm sure is the same in Jamaica and in Trinidad and Guyana, you want to own your own home. So a lot of Caribbean people here decided very early, here's an opportunity to own my own home. White folk have left, these are great homes, these are great opportunities, and they just jumped without really seriously considering what could result if they were unable to meet a couple of months' mortgage payments. And that is exactly what began to happen. Once the recession began to set in, once income became unreliable, and then, there are a lot of tenants here in the United States who have been able to develop this this expertise in moving into someone's home, paying the rent for 3 months and then stop paying. And then the homeowner can't get them out. So a lot of Caribbean people purchase homes, and the same thing happened for African Americans too. Purchase their homes with the plan, an understanding, but a plan that they would have been able to supplement the monies needed to meet their mortgage payments by having a tenant. And then it collapsed because tenants stopped paying the rent. And in many homes that were one family, the real estate agents and the mortgage companies told them, well, you can live there and you can have a tenant or two, but these other occupancies were illegal. And many of the tenants knew that they were illegal. And once they stopped paying rent and they knew the courts were not going to rule in favor of the homeowners, it was a catastrophe and a devastation for Caribbean folk. There was a lady who came in to see me today, and she is facing foreclosure. She and her sister bought a property together just 2 blocks away from here. Her sister lost her job, and as a result, they no longer have the income that's necessary to meet their mortgage payments. She has a very interesting situation though. She pays her interest only. So rather than being able to pay for her property in, say, 25 or 30 years, she'll always be paying the interest only for the rest of her life. Just recently, by the time this program is aired, of course, it will be days later. But as early as today, we heard that the job losses was the worst since 2003, and that they don't expect that the employment situation is going to improve for another year. So there are all these homeowners who have no way to turn, who have no recourse. The lady who I was speaking to said the attorney she used was not even her attorney. These forgive me, these bastard real estate agents and mortgage companies work so much tricks. I mean, they were predators. They would tell innocent persons who wanted to purchase their own homes, don't even bother with trying to find your own attorney because that's another expense. Our attorney can do this for you. And there were thousands of Caribbean people, and African American people, of course, who just believed in these real estate agents and these mortgage companies, and they were bled, and they're still bleeding.
Yet within this Caribbean community that you serve, there are many who are undocumented. What's your message to them?
Well, President Obama has allocated a certain amount of stimulus money to help some homeowners. What I can do is to see if they qualify to be beneficiaries of the allocation that would help them. But it doesn't help everyone. That is the problem. I'm fortunate to have the support and endorsement of Senator Sampson, who is in fact the number 1 or the number 2 person in State Senate, depending how you look at it. There have been these difficulties in State Senate, as I know you've heard. It's been known all over the world. So he is one of the top 2 persons in the State Senate. We have been working together for the past year on holding workshops, town hall meetings to help homeowners, to help them identify the problem, to provide whatever help we can provide for them. I intend to continue to do that. I've been working for the last 4 years on establishing a credit union, and Senator Sampson is the first person to say that if we had raised the $200,000, that's all we needed to start the credit union, that the impact of the recession as it relates to home foreclosures would not have been as devastating as it turns out to be. We want to get the credit union up and running. I'm committed to have that credit union up and running within a year of being elected. But I am going to continue to work on behalf of homeowners to steer them in the direction of legal persons who can help them, and to provide whatever information I can provide as to what banks or lending agencies and what programs there are at these banks and lending agencies that can help them.